should be good now.
We're live
We're actually live.
for the first
live
time.
as we think we're going to be. We'll find out.
Yeah, I'll be honest, I'm a little bit nervous.
A little.
Um, because we have tried this about, I don't know, 3, 4.
Well, we've had 2 good kicks at the can.
Yep.
A semi-good kick at the can after that, and we think it's taken us until today to get the feedback issue resolved. So hopefully, when we get to this point of listening to this afterwards, this works.
Yeah. So what are we doing here today?
Well, I think we should go back to the beginning, because I think after all of this stuff, we really haven't talked about how.
Anything?
Well, we've talked about a lot of things, but we haven't talked about anything that's been producible. So
Nothing's made it out.
nothing's made it
Out
out,
of these
out
four
of the
walls.
recycling bin, for lack of a better term. So I guess I guess we start with why.
Why isn't it working, or what are we doing?
Well, we know why it's not working now, we think anyway. We'll know in about 35 minutes. But why are we doing this? Like, why have we put ourselves through all of this for the last couple of weeks, and all of these, microphone and technology changes, et cetera, et cetera?
And the pain in the butt that goes along with it.
Yeah, that's
So
pretty accurate.
a few months ago, had an idea that I wanted to start doing a podcast on what it's like to start a business, the bumps that go into this, because I think a lot of people, myself included, assume you start a business and you essentially start, turning down clients and printing money and
Off the money tree in the backyard.
yeah. Right.
Yeah.
I could buy a money tree at Costco.
Yeah.
But as you start your business, you see that it's not necessarily all downhill, meaning like you're not just gaining momentum.
Yep.
There are a lot of ups and downs, and it's a pain in the butt. And I said, I wonder who else needs this dose of reality. And then we started chatting, and you were like, hey, I've always wanted to.
5 years later.
Yeah, you had all this podcasting equipment. And so we blew the dust off of that.
And then replaced it all.
And we got ourselves this area built out, and we said, let's document running a business.
Our trials and tribulations.
Yeah.
Challenges.
The challenges. And we also talked about there being a really fun component of talking to other people, but also keeping each other accountable.
Yep.
Not even just each other, but if anybody else is listening or on their own journey, it's like a little check-in. You're like, hey.
This would be kind of funny if nobody ever listens to it.
It's honestly very likely. Very
Why
likely.
do I want to listen to these two guys?
Let me tell you one thing already. That I've already seen positive impacts from this.
Really?
Yes. So one of the things that we never got to air, you and I were talking about how Sue, the lady I work with, my business partner, your wife, how our visions are different right now for the focus on the business.
Right.
And I ended up going upstairs and I was like, oh, this makes sense. I can't get her to do blank until I can do this for her.
Right.
And so in the last week and a half, 2 weeks, it's been shifted totally.
Right.
Everything is now, let's clear her of whatever.
Right.
So I can utilize her for the stuff that I want to do.
Right. The yin and the yang, the give and the take.
Yeah. And I was like, all right, if I'm going to, I need her, I want her to do this, 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 and this, which is my outbound prospecting side.
Right.
I was like, she can't do it until she has free time.
Yeah.
And I was like, let's give her some free time.
I like that.
So then we very much shifted, and I was like, okay, I've got to clear her desk as fast as possible.
Yeah.
And I think it's actually been beneficial. I don't think she's noticed it yet.
Oh, she noticed it. And I'll tell you what. So it's kind of funny because after that session, and we were so disappointed because that session never made it to air. But we got home that night and she said, thank you. And I was like, for what? She says, for what you said to Greg. I said, I didn't really say anything to Greg. We had a conversation.
Yeah.
And then she kind of reminded me what the conversation was about. And I'm like, it was just an observation, like,
Yeah.
from the outside, it wasn't anything that I was, I thought it
Saying
just
for any
yeah,
sort of
it was just a part of our conversation from that day, and she's like, "Whatever you said down there for both of us clicked."
yeah.
And he went upstairs and he said this to me, and I said something to him, and I honestly don't even
Yeah,
remember what
yeah,
I
yeah.
said, but she said, "It seems to have taken what was oil and water and emulsified it."
Yeah.
Right? And it got you guys to the point where there's a bit of an understanding. Now, that's an aha moment.
Yeah.
I'm a
Yeah.
huge proponent of aha, right? Because when you have that aha moment, you're like, "Oh, wow."
Mhm.
Right? Like, now I know how to move forward.
And that's exactly it.
Right?
So, yes, we've had a few episodes that haven't aired.
Yeah.
Episodes, if you want to call them
Yep.
that. This might not even air.
Who knows?
But with explaining why we're doing this, I've already seen a lot of benefit just with getting us like laser focused.
Yeah. It's funny because what it's done for me already, and I don't know if it's had a direct impact like you guys have had, but for me, it's been one of those scenarios where I've been so focused on getting this ready and done. I came in on a day on a Sunday to get this
Yeah.
working with Jordan just to make sure to test everything, that it's forced me to be more efficient
You're
outside
getting
so that
everything
I
else
can
done.
get down here to do this, because this to me is, like,
This is the fun part.
this is the fun part.
Yeah,
It's
I
not
know.
just it's the fun part. I think it's going to, you're 30 something, I'm, 50 something, and looking at it from, not only different mindsets, but different generational and, and having different perspectives in what we do is huge when it comes to your ability to execute, right? Because if you live in this silo that you
Mhm.
live in of your business and you don't take that outside um, input
Mhm.
and incorporate it, you're doomed to fail.
Yeah.
And you're doomed to fail because outside input is usually unbiased, right?
Yeah.
So when people come to you and say, "Hey, I think you're doing this," or "I think you're
And
doing this
sometimes if
wrong,"
you're in it, you have tunnel vision.
yeah, 100%. Tunnel vision is huge,
Yeah.
especially when it comes to, I find it's funny because I just did a training session this morning, and
Couple of them.
we're already getting off topic. Yeah, I did a couple training sessions this morning, one for a big group and one on one. I still prefer big group training. I think it's more effective, but because you get different perspectives again. But I sat there and I thought to myself as I was halfway through the session, I was like, "Oh, I don't know if this is going the way I wanted it to go." And I'm like, "I don't know if this is going to be as productive as I want it to be."
Mhm.
And
It's not resonating or whatever.
yeah, in my mind, it's not resonating. And yet, within 10 minutes of that session being over, three of my team messaged me and said, "Thank you. That was so, so helpful for what I'm doing." And one of them was actually my old assistant. She said to me, "That was a great training session." And, if you know my old assistant, and yes, before we get down that path, I know I need another assistant.
Mm.
Um, she's not that type of person to share it. So it
Right.
must have
It was
resonated with her. It
impactful.
was impactful for
Yeah.
her. So that kind of input when you're doing something like this, and I think this is what's going to end up happening between you and I, is the TV. We got
Mhm.
to fix that. That's another technology
Mhm.
glitch, but we'll figure that out. Got to get a little SD card, I think, to put in there and just leave it on. Um, but I think that when you are, doing stuff like this and being able to not only bounce ideas off, but have that accountability
Yeah.
session and that section of it, it'll help us grow at the brokerage level, at your business level. It maybe will help some of our agents. Maybe it'll help Sue. I don't know who it's going to help once we get people listening and understanding what we're trying to accomplish, and what they're seeing through the nightmare that is, sometimes my life, and
Yeah.
a guy with three kids under the age of three, what the the work life balance that
Yeah.
you have to incorporate, I think will
But
be.
selfishly, even like I've already pulled value from this.
That's great. Like, if you're
So,
pulling value now, imagine what somebody else is going to be pulling if they're in similar shoes. It may not
yeah.
fit 100%. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. I get it, and that's kind of where this spawned from.
And
It
this,
was like, "Hey, we've got different perspectives. We both want to start this." And the amount of times that our offices are side by side that you come in and then
yeah,
the
get
day
shit,
gets derailed because we just
whatever.
started talking.
Yeah,
And
100%.
then Sue will be like, "Can you guys just like,
Go somewhere else.
yeah." And so it was a long time coming, so it made sense. Um, but that's why we're doing this. That's why we're here.
Yep.
Hopefully this thing is actually going to air. And I think we've also kind of narrowed down of how we want to structure this whole thing.
Yeah, we're gonna have the quick hit.
Yeah.
5 or 10 minute quick hit conversation
What's
about what's
going
happened on, what's
on?
happened this week. We could talk about the Bank of Canada today and me losing my mind as to why they didn't lower rates yesterday. I was in a meeting yesterday morning and somebody said to me, "Oh, I think they're going to drop it 3/4 of a point." I looked at him and said, "Oh man, I hope they do. Don't get me wrong, but it's not going to happen." We had a bet in the house last night, and I'm in this meeting and the message comes through and I messaged Sue and I said, "You were
You
right.
were right.
I
I
was
was
wrong."
wrong.
I hate those
She
words.
loved because when I
She
talked
loved
to
it.
her
I'm sure she
yesterday,
pretty much
she
screenshotted that.
loved that. Yeah, we're gonna have our little preamble and normally a bit of a check-in for any of our
Yep.
accountability.
Yep.
Um,
And then a general conversation about what we're seeing and what's going on in the world.
yeah, or even like a specific topic. I
Yeah.
know we had a
Oh,
lot of topics
we
here
had
that
a
we wanted
lot
to
of
talk about.
topics we were going to talk about, but today's about, why and a little bit of introduction. So I think we should actually maybe spend a couple of minutes and tell people who we are because not everyone's going to know who we are. We're taking for granted.
Yeah, I guess I assumed anybody listening already knows me,
Yeah.
and I think
And I think the people that are going to watch from me aren't going to know necessarily who you are, and vice versa, right? Our circles cross over a little bit, but there's a little bit of value here. And tell us, Greg, who are you?
my name is Greg Skiba. I am a mortgage agent with Dominion Lending.
Yeah,
I am a father of 3 kids,
bless you.
3 under 3,
All girls, by the way.
all girls. Yeah, we're trying to get a full women's hockey team.
It's just a goalie and a defenseman or a defensewoman away.
Yeah, we need a couple of those.
Yep.
And I work closely with your wife,
Yep.
who is my senior broker, whatever you want to call her,
Whatever. Yep.
and we sell people money.
Yeah. Okay. All right. That's fair. And for Greg's friends and the people that don't know me, I'm Steve Oliver. I'm actually wearing a Cole Baker hat today. I tried not to wear a branded one, but it was the only clean one I had. I'm the broker owner of Coldwell Banker Momentum in Niagara and Norfolk counties.
Woo!
Yeah, I've been a realtor for 20 years, almost coming in on 20 years. Actually, April 1st, I celebrated 18 or 19. I can't remember. And I've owned the brokerage for 8 years this past March. And this is something for me that's been a pet project that I've wanted as I bought, like we were joking, I bought all this stuff in COVID and we finally dusted
A
off
lot of
and
stuff.
then put it all back in a box because none of it worked for what we wanted to do and bought new stuff and built this great studio for our team and for us to use.
Hmm.
And it's actually
Selfishly, a little bit.
selfishly,
Yeah,
yeah, there's
yeah,
a little selfishness to this, but the team's actually using it, so I think
yeah.
there's a benefit to it. And I think for me, this is one of those things that we're either going to be really really good at it or
Mm.
we are going to really really be like we're just talking to ourselves.
Yeah, but I still think that's okay
I
because
do too.
literally after that conversation, I said, "Oh, okay, just talking business helps me. Talking about a few things. You say something like off the cuff sometimes. And sometimes it's not even the thing that you meant to get across,
Yeah.
which is what happened in our case.
Yeah.
You were just sitting here saying something, and I was like, like I just tuned you out. My mind just went like, "Oh, this is what I have to do."
That was a 90-second soliloquy to try and get you back to the table.
Yeah.
You're gone. Greg was
Yeah.
gone.
And I was just like, okay, it clicked. So that's who we are.
That's who we
That's
are.
what we do. This now is also included. Um, you want to include like a meat and bones type of topic today?
Yeah, sure. Do you have the list there? You
Oh,
got our
buddy,
subject matter? What are we
I
going to
got
talk about today?
the
I think we should get
list.
right into it. I think we should dive right in.
Um, okay, this is a very fun one.
Oh, okay.
And I don't know if you can remember this far back,
Uh-oh.
the first year,
Ooh,
okay?
okay. Yep.
What no one prepares you for. What were some of the biggest shocks, struggles, and lessons from year one?
Okay, so from year one, so you're not maybe not even really old enough to appreciate 2008,
No.
which is so it was 2008 when I started. I just left the casino. I hadn't really left yet. I was kind of doing both because I thought, oh, I'm a Superman at 30 years old. I can, sell real estate and do a real estate business at the same time? No problem. I walked into the office, and my old admin that just recently retired, who was with me for my entire career, Mary, she said to me, "You're not going to last." I'm like, "What do you mean not going to last?" She goes, "You're not going to be able to do both." And she hadn't known me more than a couple of weeks. I said, "What do you mean?" She goes, "You're going to put everything you've got into this and want and hate the casino." About 2 weeks later, they came to me, and they bought me out. They said, "You can go away," and I got a 16-week buyout. So I had a 16-week jump start, getting paid, working in the casino or working in real estate,
Yep.
and I was nowhere near prepared for what I was getting myself into.
You just made the leap.
I just I
Mhm.
just jumped right in, head, foot, tail, everything went in with me. And I'll be honest with you, no idea what I was doing. And I really wish that somebody had sat me down and said, "Hey, you need to have $10,000.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know,
A bit of a runway.
you need to have a runway." And I thought really that at the end of the day, my buyout was going to do it, which was great. Sue was still working full time,
Mhm.
so we had money coming in. Like I wasn't the sole breadwinner in the house, and it did not go as planned.
I think it
So
rarely does.
yeah, and realistically, I think back in the day there wasn't the availability of technology. Facebook was brand new. There was still
Oh, wait.
newspaper advertising. Yeah, when did Facebook start? I couldn't tell you.
Probably
Probably
around
around
there,
oh
because
seven, oh eight, right?
trying to think, I would have been like 15.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would have had it by now.
So we had just gone in. I did an interview with a couple of brokerages. I chose Coldwell Banker mostly because the broker manager seemed
So you've been here
warm
since the
and
beginning.
welcoming. I've never worked anywhere other than Coldwell Banker.
That's
Um,
interesting.
and to be honest with you, I don't think I could ever work anywhere else. And that's just because I'm so ingrained
Yeah,
in
you've
it
never
now
known
after
anything
18
else.
years.
Yeah.
Like, like it's like, driving a
You gotta
forklift.
wear red?
Yeah, like I gotta wear the balloon, right? Like I couldn't do it, and that's good with me. I think if I were to ever do anything,
The
just on as a
balloon.
side note, I would probably go independent. If I would
Hmm.
if I ever got fed up with Cold Banker, I would go and build my own brand. But I don't think that's ever going to happen 'cause
Yeah.
I love my brand. But I think one of the things that they don't prepare you for is the finances part of it.
Fair.
You think that it's going to be easy. You get this perception in your head. I mean, I'm not going to lie, I got lured to this because my salesperson, my representative who sold us our house, showed me his commission check back in the day, and it was, I don't know, 6,000
Sure.
bucks. And I thought to myself, "Oh, that I know how much work he did."
Yeah, like I found the place
Yeah,
probably.
I found the place, and and went through all the stuff with them. Everything every typical buyer ever says that you're
Yeah.
like, as a realtor, like, "Oh man, I wish you would just stop."
Mhm.
But I thought I knew everything, and I thought it was going to be easy. And I went in
Ignorance is bliss.
ignorant, like I don't know how they didn't fire me because I was so like thought I was prepared, thought I had all these people that were going to work with me, had all of this business. And if it had not been for one person, I would have been dead in the water. I would never have made it. My second year, my first year wasn't as bad because I had some, for some family and a few things that, I had kicked around and
Trickled
people
way.
that had trickled.
Yeah.
My best friend let me sell his mom's estate house. Like I had no idea what I was doing. So I sold it and had to go through the process, and that's another story for another day. But I got a few deals under my belt, so I thought I was doing great.
Mhm.
Year one's easy. Where most realtors fall down is year two, because year one is that time where everybody who you've talked to,
You knew it
built
was
your
gonna be
rapport.
tough for the first year.
Well, it's not even that. It's you've got people that know you're getting into the business. They want to help you, right? In a lot of cases, they want to be, they want to support you.
'Kay.
After that first year, if you haven't started
Mhm.
networking and building your relationships and building your database and all those other things that nobody ever teaches you. I mean, I teach it now, but not everyone teaches it. Some brokerages do, some business don't. Like, not a lot of people understand how much of business, our business in particular, yours and mine, is belly to belly,
Oh, yeah.
right? Still
Oh,
so
yeah.
much belly to belly, even with all the technology. So my biggest failure in year one was not setting up processes, not having systems in place that were effective for driving business to me. That was year two. Year two for me was that I'd sold two houses.
Mhm.
in the entire year. I nearly quit, and I nearly went to
Year 2?
in year 2, I nearly quit because I did not have a clue how to generate business. And then I got partnered up with some guy with my savior in this business, Pat Schneider. He came to me and said, "Hey, I need a partner. This new stuff is not for me. I can't keep up with it."
Heck.
Tech, mostly. He was 60 in his late 60s and maybe even early 70s at the time, and we just clicked. And from there, it was a lot of conversations and stuff like that.
Mhm.
But for me, systems, systems, systems. Biggest failure I made. And I'll be honest with you, 18 years later, my systems still aren't great. But I got past that because of referral and repeat.
Fair.
Right?
It's also people make it sound like implementing systems is like a
Oh, yeah.
and I'm guilty of thinking the same thing, and then you go to try to do things, maybe for somebody,
Yep.
and you find that their personality or the way that they run things does not jive with the system you're trying to implement.
Yeah. Yeah. And that, I'll be honest with you, most of what I see with that is technology because it is a crutch for some that just can't get past it. And for some, it's like, this is so easy. Why are you struggling with it?
Yeah.
Right. Whereas if it came down to, okay, you do it with an Excel spreadsheet and I'll do it with the technology I've got, the results are the same
Mhm.
for the most part,
Mhm.
but the path to get there is completely different. Right. You and my wife are a perfect example of that. And you're rolling your eyes and laughing to yourself inside, but that's what your biggest challenge is.
Yep.
She is so not technologically savvy. You're
Yeah.
20 years younger than her. You have a connection to technology because it's been around
Yep.
most of your life,
You got it.
where she struggles with it and really has no interest in it.
Not even a shred
No,
of interest.
no. And that's okay. But for me, that was by far and away the biggest challenge.
Yeah.
You've got different challenges.
Yeah, I mean, holy crap, where do I begin? The challenges of first year. Um, my first year was the year that the Bank of Canada started
Yeah.
started increasing rates.
So external.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you could blame it on that.
Oh, sure.
But we don't have enough time to even for me to list everything that I thought this was gonna be like versus what it is like. Like I had this thought, this impression that you join a brokerage and mortgage files kind of come to you and you work them onto the next one. And more of how a lender operates.
Right.
I liked the idea of like tweaking with the numbers and playing with it. And yeah, I definitely had a little bumpy road. I moved a couple brokerages.
Who were you with first?
Like first, because
First.
technically I got licensed and didn't do anything for like didn't touch a thing for 7, 8 months.
Really?
Yeah, I still had a full time job.
Okay.
I got licensed in like August, September 21,
Okay.
and I joined a brokerage. Doesn't really matter. And what's that?
Chicken.
I the way that they operated, you were pretty much a lead generator,
Okay.
and you did none of the underwriting.
Oh,
So you didn't review any client files. Didn't know that was out of the norm.
yeah, that's weird.
Some operate like that. I've learned.
I know a couple that do.
Yeah. So I was there until about April. No, until December 22. No, 21. Sorry, January
Yeah.
22.
Then you went to BRX.
Well, it wasn't that yet.
Oh.
It was called something different
Oh,
initially.
was it really?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah, it was called ILMB Mortgage Pros.
Oh, I love mortgage brokering.
Yeah, and
That's like
technically
Facebook group.
yeah, it is a Facebook
Okay.
group,
Yeah.
yeah. So he had started this. I ended up going to another brokerage because, a guy running a podcast, he had pretty good mentorship. I was like, "Okay, I align with you." Actually, the person he was starting the brokerage with was the guy I was really looking to work under.
Right.
Um, different guy, he ended up leaving just as I got there.
Really.
Yeah, it's a story for another day, and
Wow. Interesting.
so anyways, I was at ILMB Mortgage Pros. They were a little team under the Verico brand.
Okay.
So that's what we were under, and then probably by summertime they'd become BRX,
Right.
something like that.
You didn't last long at BRX, though, did you?
Um, I'm trying to think how long I was there for now.
It wasn't
It
long.
wasn't long because we jumped ship pretty quick.
And affiliated with essentially Coldwell Banker.
Yeah. So what happened was we were just talking about this actually at lunch.
Yeah.
Um, Sue, your wife, had sent out a mortgage, not a mortgage, had sent out a Facebook message in the mortgage group just saying, hey, anybody looking to work on files together? And I don't remember what she said. She mentioned office space or something. And I was like, yeah, yeah, I'm up for it. Didn't know anything about anything. So I thought she was also a rookie.
Oh, okay.
And so her and I, we were supposed to meet up. And I remember the way she texted. I was like, oh,
She's old.
yes. She was texting with like, hey, dot, 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 gonna be doing this, dot, 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 like all in a line.
Yeah.
And I read these texts and I was like, oh, like this is gonna be interesting. Like she's probably some lady just starting out, like doesn't.
Yeah.
Anyways,
And here you are.
I ended up meeting Sue at the real estate office, and then we jived
You guys jived like almost right away.
pretty quickly.
Yeah. I remember, I don't know how I remember this, but I remember going back and her coming home and saying, that guy's my guy.
Mm,
And I don't know what it was about it. And that was after the second meeting. And she was like, that, like, him and I just clicked.
yeah, it was pretty immediate.
Which is weird, right?
Yeah.
Mostly because of the age gap, I think.
Yeah.
But there's something about the two of you. I'm sure you both make each other crazy at some
Oh,
points. Trust me, I know. Like
mhm.
I know your frustration like probably better than anybody.
Better than anybody. Yes.
But yeah, it works. It's like having a partner who can be your assistant all at the same time.
It's interesting because I've also thought about why we gel, and I think it's nothing to do with business. I actually think we run our businesses like dramatically different,
Yeah.
but I feel like there are some personal values that just align.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
And I think that has been the biggest.
Well, and I think it also helps along the way that your wife is amazing,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? She's saintly. She's
Mhm,
so patient with you.
mhm.
I'm dragging you into the chaos. So whether or not she stays that way
Well,
with
yeah,
me, I
she
don't
likes it.
know.
Like
Um,
this for us is a long term vision, so she's
yeah.
she's on board.
So I think the four of us clicking also helps, right?
Oh
It
yeah,
makes,
she
so much
likes you
easier.
guys much more than she
Um,
should.
well, I'm that kind of guy.
Yeah, I don't
You
think it's
either
you.
love me
I don't
or
think it's you.
you love me or hate me,
I
right?
think it's yeah. You're right though.
And I think Sue is a lot like the two of them. Whenever they get together, seem to click for
Yeah.
whatever reason, and that's great. But I think finding your and we'll talk about finding your tribe at length later. I found my tribe with Pat. That was my
Yeah.
biggest success. You found Sue.
Mhm.
It took you a couple of years
Mhm.
to get through the. I think the period is that first period is. I think you learn more what you don't want to be than what you want to be in your first couple of years.
Yeah, but also like I was trying to get to is I didn't realize how this side is really the mortgage side is split underwriting and like actual working on mortgages
Yeah.
and sales.
Yeah.
Sales in like the very traditional sense of relationship building and lead
Generation.
generation.
See, and that's the same thing for us,
Well, it
right?
took me a while for me to really get on board with that.
Really?
Yeah, it just I'm not a I'm okay at building relationships,
Yeah.
and I for some reason sales. I don't know if it has a negative connotation in my head.
Yeah. Used car salesman.
Maybe, maybe. And I was always like, oh, and it didn't click until I realized that like I actually pretty good at what I do. I can bring a decent amount of value to some people here.
Yeah.
And that's when it was like, oh no, like you're not selling them, like you're actually helping them get to the finish line.
You're the really at the end of the day the coach that
Yes.
takes somebody who realistically, and I watch you guys do your job. The consumer struggles with this aspect of it because they don't understand the complexity of it on the back end,
Yeah.
right? And I think we talked about this in one of our previous sessions.
There's gonna be some overlap that I think is gonna be
Yeah,
funny.
which is going to be funny, but I think we talked about this when we said, and I'm drawing a blank now. Where did I go? Where was I going with that, Greg?
Back end consumer complexity.
Yeah, it's gone. It doesn't matter.
It'll
I'll
come
come
back.
back. It'll come back to me
Yeah,
at some
100%.
point. But I just think that, oh, the consumer thinks what we do is easy,
Oh, yeah.
right?
Yeah,
The
yeah, yeah.
consumer really does, because we create that perception,
Yes.
whether that's
You
good
show
or
up
bad.
prepared, ready to go. This is done, that's done. There's, like, phone calls that were made on the back end,
Yeah, and
hair that
nobody,
went gray.
yeah, or fell out.
Yeah.
And I think that we as salespeople, because we are salespeople, are very poor at explaining our value and explaining what goes into getting from that meeting 7 years ago in the elevator, when you gave them your elevator pitch that you were taught to do in your second year of
Mhm.
business, to that phone call where they call and say, hey, I need a mortgage, or hey, I want to list my house. And you're like,
Uh,
when did we talk last?
mhm.
And it happened to me with my last closing. I dropped, Aiden used to go fishing at this lady's pond around the corner from us. Her cousin was a realtor. She listed with her cousin. That didn't work out. They listed with another top producer in town. That didn't work out. Then her husband passed away. And I had forgotten this lady, but I had dropped a thank you card in her mailbox with my business card. And I just said to her, basically, thanks for taking care of my kid and letting him fish in your pond.
Yeah.
He thinks it's the greatest thing ever. He really appreciates it, and I appreciate you. I come to find out later on that she's given them ice cream over the years. She's given them bait. She's, sat and talked to them, had them on the porch. Out of nowhere, we were in Cuba, maybe. I can't
Mm.
remember. We were on vacation somewhere. It might even been Florida. And I get this message on my phone. We were in Florida. I was at the house, and it says, "Hey, it's so and so. Would love you to come and sell the farm." And I'm like, "Oh, okay. I'm in Florida. I'm making this call. Like, I'm not
Yeah.
missing the opportunity," because she called me directly. So I called her back and I said, "Hey, it's Steve Oliver calling from Coldwell Banker. You left me a message about selling your farm." She goes, "You don't remember me at all, do you?" And I'm like, "I'm going to be brutally honest. I don't. And I
Mhm.
apologize up front." She goes, "You left a card in my mailbox a couple of years ago." And I was like, "Bowen Road." And she's like, "Yep."
Mm.
And I'm like, "I can't believe you called me. I really thought that you had, moved on." She goes, "No, I want to sit and talk to you about selling the farm. I've got some ideas, and I really would think that you would be great at helping me."
Holy crap.
So I didn't really think much of it. I said, "Let's make an appointment. I'm back from Florida, yada, yada, yada. I'll come up and see you." I went to the listing appointment, and I'm not a big fan of a super, super long introductory appointment, because I think you lose a lot of information.
Yeah, 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 that
I
makes
think the
sense.
second appointment is more important than the first
They're
appointment.
nervous, they're
Yeah, they're nervous. You don't know each other in a lot
Mhm.
of cases. It ended up being 3 hours.
Oh.
We just sat, and I'll be honest with you, it was a conversation
Yeah.
about laughter and sharing, and this woman and I just clicked.
Hmm.
And she stuck with me, and I stuck with her. We battled it out sometimes, but that was from a simple thank you card, and sending and saying, "Thank you for taking care of my kid." So, like, that kind of stuff is never portrayed to the consumer.
No.
From our business anyway, it's come drop the sign on the lawn and, oh, the house sells, right? Like, and the consumer doesn't see the 100 hours that you've got in the background
Mhm.
trying to sell this place.
Well, like, that's another big lesson is, like, the little things matter, and, like, the devil's in the details.
Yeah, 100%. And it's try to teach that to somebody.
You have to see it. You have to see it, not only, like, you have to see somebody do it, you have to see it work for you.
Yeah. We talked about, we should have that session of, let's record from the beginning, from the first time
Oh,
you
yeah,
contact
timestamp it.
somebody, timestamp it, and then record every interaction that you have with that
Every
person,
text message, every phone
everything,
call, every
and
yes.
then do a documentary out of it. Because I think that would be, for a consumer, not only great to understand, you got to obviously get some, permissions and stuff, but
Sure.
for them to say, "Holy cow, what the hell's going on? I
I
don't
think it'd be a
understand."
very good idea because I can think of one recently that my mind here went to, and I don't think you guys, well, no, you definitely do this, where you end up doing something without getting paid for it.
All the time.
Right. and you end up doing a great job, and that leads to something that you actually do get paid for.
Yeah.
And the stuff you did on this first transaction doesn't get counted towards this next one, but like you put in X amount of hours
Yep.
on top of these hours.
In our business, a lot of that comes from divorce, sadly.
Okay.
Very, very sadly, because a lot of cases when there's a divorce, in a lot of cases, they can't go and buy separately. It takes time for them to
Hmm.
save up, get into the position where they can purchase again, unless they've got oodles of equity
Sure.
and a decent job. So I've done a lot of divorces over the years, but how you handle that divorce will dictate whether they call you when they're ready,
Or they call
right?
their other
Or they
buddy.
call their other buddy or one of the other 5 people in my business that they know.
Okay.
So
So a couple of good lessons from year one.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
I
100%.
think I actually think that list could grow and grow and grow.
Yeah.
Um, okay, our last part of this normally would be setting up some accountability goals.
Some accountability
I
goals
say
for
we leave
this
it for
week.
today,
I do too, because we're at yeah, we're getting there. Like, that's a pretty good session. I'm not
right?
gonna lie. Yeah.
Let's see
So
if this thing worked.
yep, I think we did. I think knock on that wood head. I think we actually got it right this time.
Oh, don't say
If
that.
we didn't,
Don't say
it's the
that.
kiss of death. I
All
know.
right, well,
So next session we will actually start with quick hits.
yeah,
We'll have the body of our list of things that we want to talk about, and then we will do an accountability session for 5 minutes at the end of what you're going to get done this week.
deal.
All right. Peace.